All right, so we begin. All right, so wherever you are, we always like to start with a meditation of sorts where we're able to clear our space internally. So much of who we are on a daily basis is impacted by the demand of what is being fed to us. So just like this morning, I just had coffee, right? And you crave coffee, crave that caffeine, that warmth, the ritual, what it does for me, right? There's something about it that kind of inspires, but also just hones in, creating also some kind of safety. We do this with many things in our life, but more often than not, we have to also take some time to separate ourselves from the experience itself. One second, can you call her? She call okay. We have to separate ourselves from some of the things that either we do repetitiously or are pushed on us in the pushed on us day to day. If we're able to start with a focus in the morning and a solid inspiration, a healthy inspiration, what ends up happening is we end up with a good foundation for the day, and usually whatever evolves from there is inspired by what it is that how we positioned ourselves in the morning or the night before. So what we're going to do is first clear this space and then dive a little deeper into this experience. All right, so wherever you are, just roll the shoulders back. Notice where your neck is. So like align the neck with the spine. Roll the shoulders back. Just notice that the chest is more open here. So we're just opening up that space a little bit because so much of our day is leaning forward. Okay, so rolling back and really sitting back, supporting that back. Tuck the tail as well. So like you can suck the stomach in, really tightening the core, and then relax the stomach, but just see if you can keep some of that core muscle contracted, as well as relaxing the back of the spine. So for a lot of us, when we have tension, we kind of arch the back, or we find a lack of alignment. We discover a lack of alignment rather than aligning. So that's a really good thing to do there. And notice when you did that, if your shoulders came forward. So roll the shoulders back, open up. Placing the tongue at the roof of the mouth, we're going to take that first inhale. Inhale through the nose, really beginning to fill that space within, allowing yourself to expand. Really filling the belly and the chest. And then softly beginning to exhale, blow out the mouth. Inhale again through the nose. And softly begin to exhale through the mouth. Notice what begins to clear, what begins to show up. Notice what begins to dominate. Inhale again here. And softly begin to exhale and soften into that space. So by noticing what begins to dominate will give us it'll be an indication of where exactly we are. So if you're in a space where you're like, the domination is, I'm overwhelmed, I have a lot to do, or I can't do something, or I'm inspired and everything is possible. Whatever it is that is there in the mind and that's been programmed either by you or anyone else is going to dictate how you go into your day. So if you're finding that there is a little bit of a negative frequency there, or the heaviness is dominating, we're going to try to clear that a little bit, okay? So just through softening, right? Because when we think of anything negative, negative is constricting. Negative is tension. When we think of when we think of constriction, like if you think of a muscle, if you tighten a muscle, it shortens, right? It doesn't allow for that blood flow to go through. Now, obviously it has a purpose, but for this, when we're trying to let go, we need a little bit more flexibility and elasticity. So I encourage you to notice where it is that you can soften. If you're in a place where you are struggling with letting go of something, or there is a sense of resistance there, right? So not even if it's letting go, but resistance in itself, resistance to even make a change, or resistance to feeling the love, or resistance to living your best life. Notice where that how that resistance is manifesting, and usually it is going to be in some kind of tension or constriction. Okay, so we're going to inhale again here, placing the tongue again at the roof of the mouth. Notice the jawline, notice the ears, notice the eyes, the eyebrows, really softening the eyes. So notice the eyeballs if they're like focused and harsh, or you can close your eyelids, soften them, and just allow them to take a back seat, back of the head. Inhale here again. Anywhere that you feel tension, you can just allow that to soften. We're just trying to find that softness and step into the best self. So inhaling here fully, expanding, and then softly beginning to exhale. From a simple component, just simplify it, because the first thing constriction will tell you is that it's complicated. Soften into that space. Fill that space within. Softly begin to exhale. Beautiful. Amazing. And just notice when we begin to align, right? The first step of any transformation is alignment. So as soon as we're able to align, we're in also the position where we're able to listen. The hardest place to shift is the place where we're not ready to listen. And when we talk about listening, it's listening to guidance from ourselves, from our inner selves, from our best selves, from our successful selves, from our higher selves. When there's that restriction, it's usually coming from a place of lack of trust in yourself as well. And a reminder that confidence is built on trust. So if we want to get to the place where we have confidence to build whatever it is that we need to build, we need to first be in alignment. We first need to be in the place where we trust. And if we're in that place where we trust, then anything is possible. Anything that we put our mind to is possible. All right, so you can softly just come back into the space, wiggle the fingers and toes. And then you can come back into the space, and we will begin the lecture part of this. So the thing is like this. For a lot of us, we get stuck in this space of understanding. We have to understand, we need to know, we need to know, we need to know. But the problem is we're not ready to listen. So as soon as we are aligned, then the work can actually begin. So whenever you find yourself stuck, if you find yourself in a place where you're like, I don't know what to do, you feel like you might be failing at something, you're not in the right position, in the right place, just take that time to align first. Because as soon as you are in that space of alignment with yourself, coming back into the body, regulating the nervous system outside of the restriction and the resistance, what happens next is that the fight is over, right? So even if other people will come into that space and try to battle you on something, it's less likely that they will be able to take advantage of that, because you're in a place where you're relaxed. There is no fight, right? Like the tension, there is no tension for them to actually battle with. So just have that in mind when we start to build on that. So that's the first component. The next component is, where do you get your inspiration from? Okay? And this is a really important one. So nowadays, there's a lot that can be manufactured or stimulated. Like when it comes to inspiration, let's say even making a lot of money, losing weight quickly, getting into a relationship, whatever it is, getting something that we want quick. There's a lot of stuff out there that kind of encourages or perpetuates that it's easy and quick, and sometimes that in itself can impact us. But coming back to that thought on like your inspiration in yourself, the thing is you have to ask yourself, where do I get my inspiration? So if you think about just American culture in general, for a lot of us, we begin with coffee. We begin our mornings with coffee. And the like picture perfect, I'd say, scenario in the outside world, like, you know, we're not talking about nowadays, but it is technically, it's just transferred into nowadays, which was, it used to be that like you sat with coffee and like a newspaper, right? So like you informed yourself. The concept of information was very, very important. And part of that programming of information being so important was that information was the way they got you to do whatever it is that they need you to do. Now, information is important, but in what context? If that becomes your inspiration, that's where it can become dangerous. Because that inspiration has to come from within. If you're trying to have yourself in mind, in the sense of building something for yourself, you have to be able to find some of that inspiration within, because when we get external information, right, if we're inspired by external experiences, we end up at a day and age where we step into our life and we wake up one day and realize, like, I'm living somebody else's life. I'm living somebody else's dream. Maybe I don't want to live like this, you know? And I had that at 26. I achieved many, like, I ticked all the boxes and felt like I was living somebody else's life. And I was like, but I did everything I was told, right? I hit all the markers of everything, the formula to success. And I was like, 1 second, I'm not happy. And when I took the time to look deeper, I realized part of me not being happy was I didn't include myself and my dream and my wishes into it. And the argument there would be like, yeah, but that's selfish. And that's actually not accurate. You can either work for yourself or you can work for the machine. Now, when we talk about working for ourselves, right? We're not personally wrapping it around us as an individual. It's when you kind of go deep and learn about the intuition, right? Intuitive, the ecosystem, the family, right? I had to start thinking, oh, like part of me battled with this thing of like everyone my age, if their husbands were sitting and learning, they would work a day job and kids would all go to the babysitter. And I had a really hard time with that. And for a while I was like, yeah, it is what it is. I'll just do that too because everybody's doing that. One of my cousins actually would then put all her kids to bed and then go back to work. And I know I felt so much pressure doing that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my intuition was telling me I want to be home with my kids. It was overwhelming for me to feel like I need to send them out and not be part of their childhood. And that was like an intuitive thing that nagged at me. But if I was going by the external factors of what everyone else does and what's thrown at me, I would be blocking my sensory, which would harm me in the long run. Because what I was, again, I'm not a perfect parent, but my intuition was like, I want as much connection time as I can with my children. And everybody else, what was going on around me was something that like, no, you don't need that as much, right? So it took me a lot to really condition, I took on different jobs afterwards. I was like, okay, well, if these are my goals, if my goal is, right, that focal point is to be around my kids or be home as much as possible, what can I curate to do that? And I was successful in curating a couple different jobs to be able to give myself the ability to be home, and be there for when they get up, they can be part of my day, and then when they're going to sleep. And again, this is just something little. So I'm just giving you like the component of, the longevity. Now, the next part of that is it kind of, when we know where we get our inspiration from, it then goes into the next component, which is creativity and what we manifest, right? And if we're in a position where our creation, whatever it is that we're creating for somebody else or something else, or we're manifesting resistance, right? Going back to that one is being frustrated that I can't be home with them, right? Like, let's say that was the choice, that was the concept. Then my entire day would be positioned and aligned towards resistance, or me feeling like I have no choice. The thought would then manifest in different areas in my life as I have no choice. So that's really, really important to understand, because the next point is the emotional guidance system, right? So we get alignment first, right? So we begin with alignment. Alignment is noticing where there is resistance in the body and releasing some of that, right? Because anywhere that there's restriction and resistance, there's a lack of alignment. Then we go into the position of where are we getting our inspiration from? How do we start our day, right? What is it that we're consuming? What is it that we're nurturing ourselves with? I gave the example of a cup of coffee, a newspaper. Do you open your phone? Do you meditate first? Where do you clear your space first? Who do you talk to? Like, who's that first person you talk to in the day? Just noticing all those things. What is it that you think about first thing in the morning? That will curate what it is that you end up developing there. The next thing is the creation and manifestation. Creation and manifestation. And again, this will all be in the newsletter in like broken down parts. So if it does sound a little confusing, I'll probably have a diagram in the newsletter with some of this in there. So from there, right, you have to then, what do you create with your inspiration? And inspiration could be positive or negative. And then the manifestation is there, are we manifesting positive or manifesting resistance? Just notice where that loops back from alignment. Like, where did that build in? And then from there, it kind of taps into our emotional guidance system. And the emotional guidance system is where, like, when you think of what you have to do, when you think in your day of the things that you have to do or manifest, then you could think, okay, what does this make me feel, right? And what does it bring up for me? And a simple thing could be, if we're feeling that resistance, it could be, oh, it's never fair for women. Or why does this always happen to me? Or am I the only one that is going through this? Or, feeling abandonment. Notice what those points of contact and emotional guidance, where did the emotions guide itself to? And then from there, it's the point of attachment. And the points of attachment are, okay, then because of that, what do we attach ourselves to, right? So when we feel a sense of, let's say, I'll just give a simple one of like women, like, oh, why do we have to work? Why is it unfair for women? Or, why do we have to work so hard? What are the things that get attached to that? So that in itself perpetuates its own belief system. And from there, we have these, it's cooperative components, which then what happens there is we almost build our own belief system. So it's like saying, if you say, I feel fat, right? And then you start actually feeling fat. And then you say, oh, I feel fat now because when I was a kid, people commented on my weight. And then the cooperative component would be, so then the point of attachment would be every time you eat, you would you'd say, oh, this makes me fat, right? Or, oh, I anything I eat is going to make me fat. The cooperative component would be, you see, like, I am, when you get on the scale or whatever, you see, I am fat, and really confirming your belief system. You'll find a way to confirm it, either by looking in the mirror and not fitting into something the way you feel you need to fit into it, or whatever it is. But what ends up happening is it's this constant cycle. So what we want to do is we want to, the reason I'm bringing this up is it feels very complicated, but for a lot of us, we don't understand the process. And we'll spend years and years in therapy trying to figure it out, when this is kind of a little bit of a hack that you could try to use that might alleviate some of the complication from the beginning. And that would be, so we'll go through one simple round of something healthy. If any of you want to actually contribute, like, I'll ask somebody to like text something that you would want me to take you through this process. Like, give me like either work, diet, relationship. Give me something in the chat. I'll wait for a comment. So I'll wait a minute, and if one of you can give me a comment, then I can use that and I'll break it down. Again, you don't have to give me real life details, but just like something that you might be struggling with getting there, and then we'll align it into something positive. Let's see. All right. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so slowing down and being present. So let's say we have a challenge with slowing down and being present, or even just saying it's not a challenge. I want to slow down and be present. The first thing you would do is you'd take that time to align your body, right? So you'd align your body by eliminating some of that resistance, breathing, relaxing the muscle structure, and then that will help the nervous system regulate itself. So you'd begin your day in that space. Then you have to notice what your morning routine is formulated by. And if the goal is to slow down, you have to ask yourself, is there anything I do in my morning that stimulates me to speed up very fast? For example, running. So let's say you're a runner, right? If you're running, you're almost putting that into gear, into high gear of speeding up. Sometimes it could be the morning rush. So if you find that it's a morning rush, you have to make lunches, whatever it is that you have to get through in the morning that might stimulate this kind of fast pace. Number one, it would be going to bed early. Number two, it would be saying to yourself, what can I prepare the day before? And then also in the morning, what can I simplify? All right. So then you have to ask yourself, right? So we're going into the next component, right? So from alignment, you're going into the next component, asking yourself, okay, what am I inspired by? So is it something that I used to see at home? Like, was the morning always a rush? What if the morning doesn't have to be a rush? Notice, what are the components that come up? What is it inspired by? And it could be the past as well, or it could be even certain phone calls, not having enough time, not having the right schedule. But notice those things and then how fast you move. So just pipe that down. The next thing is the creation and manifestation part, right? So once you commit to slowing down, ask yourself, how can you create a morning routine, right, where it actually helps you and stabilizes you rather than stimulates the chaos, right? So I like to block out a few hours before I start talking to anyone or start moving. I need time to do nothing, right? So that's, for me in the morning, I need to be able to operate from my own body rhythm, okay? Now, you can only do this if you've prepared other things. So if other things that need to be done in the morning have been already prepared, then you could take some time to just move at your body rhythm. So you can move as slow as you need to. That can also really help. And then I find that really helps with the manifestation. So when we're automatically relaxed, then we go into the emotional guidance system. What does that kind of bring up in us? So if you were coming from a place of chaos and the rush and the busy rush, that's going to automatically first tell you don't have enough time in your day, or there won't be enough. So there's going to be you start your day with a lack of abundance. But if you start your day with a little bit of kind of abstract body rhythm of just knowing that you could move at your pace, and that could be even if you have work. Sometimes there are jobs that we can push off another hour or two, we can reschedule. It's up to you to know. If we understand the value of going by our body rhythm, we can gain so much more. And some people say, but I'll lose money, I'll lose clients, I can't afford it. But think about how much you can afford with your nervous system being run down now, right? So what if you start a little bit later? What if you give yourself some time in the morning and then you go to bed a little earlier at night, but you give yourself some time in the morning? And obviously you'll build some kind of ritual, but something where you follow your body rhythm. Because what that will do is it will then, tap into the emotional guidance system, a positive emotional guidance system, where you then will believe, and that will the point of attachment will be, oh, I do have the time I need. I have the support I need. Then you go into whatever you do next in your day feeling refreshed and supported. And then the cooperative components of the attachment would be feeling refreshed and supported, because our body doesn't lie to us. Our body doesn't lie to us. So this is the thing, that you can't trick yourself into doing anything, and your body won't lie to you. So when you are feeling that resistance, instead of pointing fingers at yourself and saying something's wrong with me, we can just readjust some of the system. and reconstruct some of it. When we do a lot of healing, right there, with the amount of healing that's like very popular now, I heard an herbalist, he's really amazing. He was saying he says it's all really great. All these components of healing are really great, but it's like taking a soup ladle and just scooping water out of a boat that keeps filling with water. So the thing is, he says, you got to stop the hole. You got to figure out where the hole is that keeps on bringing on more of that trauma or suffering. And for a lot of us, if we kind of step into the space and the reality of saying enough is enough, I'm not letting myself suffer anymore. It's really scary sometimes to be in that place where you start taking full accountability and tell yourself, okay, no more. The past was the past, but no more. And that means that you can't allow any of these kind of inspirations actually manifest and create chaos in your life. And we don't attach ourselves to them anymore, and that's where we stop the hole. So, but the thing is, then you'll have to kind of adjust the belief system to be like, okay, I'm going to stop. It's if you're constantly in that healing space, you're constantly validating the deficiency. So we're shifting into a different place where instead of constantly finding different modalities, we lean into a healthier place where we begin our day with alignment and then notice what our inspiration is, creation and manifestation. And then we understand what points, right? So when we find ourselves in a healthy place, right, a healthy emotion will validate that you've had healthy inspiration in your day and you are paying attention to your needs. So that is kind of the cycle of that. It'll all be in the newsletter. Thank you so much for joining me today. I can totally take questions if anyone has any now.